Sick. Wow. All right, James Harden. How good has James Harden been? 20 straight games with at least 30 points. Second Spectrum helping us dive deeper on these numbers. His signature move has been the step-back three. He's made 80 step-back threes, which not only are the best in the league since December 13th, but he's hit 59 more than anybody else during that span. And he's done more than just score during this run, leading the league with 135 wide-open shots created for his teammates in the last 20 games. On the flip side, Harden's teammates have created just 5 wide-open shots for him during the streak. But is he wearing down? Something Mark Jackson said we should be concerned about. His field goal percentage has dipped from 45% in the first 3 quarters to 38% in the fourth. And he stopped the flow of Houston's offense in the fourth quarter, too, with an average touch length of 7.3 seconds. That's the highest by any player in the quarter, any quarter during the span.
It's always special, man. It's special to play in the Garden. We all know the history.
Reggie Miller, your fault.
Reggie Miller scoring 8 points in the final 32 seconds.
MJ 55, your fault.
And did you ask, is he back? Oh, come on.
61, your fault.
Bryant spins, puts it up, puts it in. One of the greatest individual performances ever here at Madison Square Garden.
That's one of the reasons why you play the game of basketball, to be, when it's all said and done, be mentioned with the greats. Every single year you have to come back better than you were the year before and come up with a new move or a new package to keep defenders on their heels.
A lot of players, superstars say they had that garden moment. You feel like you've had one yet, or you still looking for it?
I'm still looking for it.
As a kid, you always vision having a chance to play in Madison Square Garden, just being the mecca of basketball.
Mark Jackson on the call from Philly as the Sixers host the Spurs. Mark, we'll get to Philly in a moment, but I'd like to get your perspective on what James Harden is doing, because there's obviously a really good side to it and then a bad side kind of too. Aside from the fact that they've got to get healthy again, Mark, what do the Rockets need to be careful of with this scoring trend with Harden?
Well, to me, the only thing they have to be careful of is you don't want to have a worn-down, beat-up, physically drained James Harden. The guy is playing at an all-time clip, and in the discussion, in my opinion, as the greatest offensive weapon that this league has seen. He's certainly putting on all-time great numbers. The concern is overutilizing him and the demand it puts on his body. You want a fresh, healthy, whole James Harden when it matters most and puts them in position to be in the mix.
And we have seen him get fatigued later in the season. In the past, we shall see again the MVP from last year picking up where he left off this year. As promised, we're talking Sixers too, so the guy to my right, Kevin Nagandi, is here for that. Mark, don't go anywhere.
Sage trusts the process. Last time we saw the Beard, he took an L against Joel Embiid, who's listed as questionable tonight, dealing with back soreness. There he is before tonight's game up against the Spurs. Embiid has been fantastic the last couple of games out. Let's go back to Saturday versus Russell Westbrook. Not afraid on the fast break. Embiid jumping for the block, coming down hard on Russ. And then these two guys, they got a history of going back and forth. Joel, your thoughts on Russ's reaction?
I don't know why he was mad. I have no idea, but he's always in his feelings, so I have no idea.
Sixers would lose a heartbreaker against the Thunder that night, and then Monday, complete domination on both sides. Embiid and James Harden getting into it, and Harden on the drive, bumped by Embiid. Didn't like that knee there, a little too close to push. They got to be separated, and then Harden driving, get it out. Access denied. There's Embiid, and then the stare down in Philly. They loved it. Joel, your thoughts on playing the best?
I love playing against, guys that you guys might say that they're out better than me. So just to prove you guys that, no, they're not, but it's fun to me.
Sixers would dominate the game 121-93, led by Embiid's MVP-type performance, 32 points, 14 rebounds. After those two games, he's now averaging 27 and 13 per this season, seeking to become the second player in franchise history to average those marks in a single season. The only other player to do so, Wilt Chamberlain. Back with Mark Jackson as he gets ready for the Sixers-Spurs game tonight. Brett Brown has had to figure out the right pace for his 3 superstars. Butler will miss tonight's game with a wrist injury. And as a coach, what have you noticed from Embiid's play when Butler's not on the floor?
Well, it makes it a clear-cut decision what they're trying to do night in and night out offensively. He's the first option, the second option, and the third option. And in my opinion, he should be that way. The game should not change with or without Jimmy Butler. Joel Embiid is that complete of a basketball player and that much of a force to have to, respond to as the opposition. So to me, that should be the way they consistently play and allow Butler to change, not Embiid at all.
All right, we see the energy on the floor every time he's out there. Simmons, by the way, questionable for tonight's game as he's under the weather. Mark, looking forward to the call tonight on ESPN.
Thank you.
Developing story on SportsCenter. If you were watching the end of our show yesterday, you heard our report from Adrian Wojnarowski that the Memphis Grizzlies are willing to listen to trade offers for both guard Mike Conley and center Marc Gasol. As it seems, the Grizzlies are pretty much committed to going into rebuilding mode. This, of course, will be a big blow to the fan base there in Memphis. These two have been together for a very long time. Both spoke at today's shoot-around. Listen.
Did you want to end your career as a Grizzly? And, you know, there's not very many players get a chance to spend their whole career.
You think that up to me right now? Does it feel like it's up to me right now?
No.
No, so why even think about it? It's irrelevant. It's, you know, you go out there and do your job. That's plain and simple. And like I said, I don't want anyone to use this as an excuse not to do so. And I don't even understand why Mike is in those talks either.
I feel just as good about being here as you know, the next person. So I have no reason to, you know, I'm not worried right now. You know, a lot can happen in a few weeks, but right now I'm just, you know, taking it in stride.
Yeah, so here's a look at what the contracts for Gasol and Conley look like after this season. A lot of money at stake here. Gasol has a player option worth over $25 million next year, while Conley's scheduled to make over $66 million in the final 2 years of his deal. The man who broke this news yesterday, Adrian Wojnarowski, joins us now here on SportsCenter. And Woj, again, Memphis seemingly ready. They've committed. They got to rebuild. But this isn't going to be easy, is it? I mean, what stands in the way of them, I guess, getting their way and trading both guys?
Well, I think for Mike Conley, it's, as you showed, the money owed him, almost $67 million through 2021. This is one of the most respected players in the league, one of the great leaders. But at 31 years old, for a team to invest that kind of money into one player, they're going to want Memphis to take back a lot of money, and Memphis may not be able to get the draft picks, the young talent they would want in return. And for Marc Gasol, the fact that he can opt out of his contract this offseason and become a free agent. So if you're going to trade for Marc Gasol, you're going to want to have an indication from him, his agent. Number one, is he going to opt in? Does he want to be a free agent? And what kind of money will it take to re-sign him? Dallas has had some relatively recent interest in Marc Gasol, and Boston in the last year or two, you know, had checked in on Gasol, but Boston's focus is on another center in the Western Conference for in trade discussions, and that's Anthony Davis. I don't think they go back down the Marc Gasol road now.
Okay, and before we move on to AD, it's interesting because Conley and Gasol, the longest tenured teammates in the league, 11 years together in Memphis. And you could tell Gasol a little annoyed at the questioning, but hey, it is the reality. As for AD, injured his finger Friday against the Blazers. What's the latest regarding? It's the index finger, right?
Right, on his non-shooting hand.
Yes.
I talked to his agent, Rich Paul of Clutch Sports tonight. He tells me that he may be back as soon as next week. Anthony Davis will be reevaluated Friday, which is 1 week from the injury. And then Paul tells me every 48 to 72 hours, they need to see the swelling go down. They need to see the range of motion improve. But there was fear that this could be a longer-term injury. He could be out through the All-Star break. But for the Pelicans, who are fighting to get back into that Western Conference playoff chase, to have Davis back as soon as next week keeps their hopes alive of getting into the postseason.
On the outside looking in now, and in order to get back in, they're going to need the services of the five-time All-Star Anthony Davis. Adrian Wojnarowski, thank you.
Thanks, Sage.
And Ben Simmons, who was listed as questionable for tonight's game against the Spurs on ESPN, but he is officially playing. He is active, and the Sixers need him. By the way, 31-17 this season, their most wins prior to the All-Star break since the 2000-2001 season, which, Kevin, was the last time they
went to the NBA Finals.
Okay.
Yeah, Step over, Allen Iverson. Now, Simmons has been playing really well since the acquisition of Jimmy Butler, but we won't see Jimmy Butler in action tonight. He is out as he deals with a wrist injury, same wrist injury where he missed again the game against the Rockets. We're going to see Corey Brewer starting to spot. Here's what else is happening on SportsCenter right now. Lakers coach Luke Walton said LeBron James did some drills today but won't play tomorrow against the Timberwolves. LeBron has not been ruled out yet for Sunday's game against the Suns. He's been out since Christmas Day with a groin injury.
The Knicks host the Rockets tonight, which means it's a good time to remind you about some of these moments. The best in MSG history. 28th of March, 1995, in his fifth game after coming out of retirement, Michael Jordan dropped 55 at Madison Square Garden. He had 20 points in the first quarter, and then he assisted to Bill Weddington with a game-winning dunk. February 2nd, 2009, Kobe scored 61, 19 for 31 from the field, 20 for 20 from the line, one of his 6 60-point games in his career. 2 days after that, LeBron James had 52, 11 assists and 9 rebounds in a win over the Knicks. It was the second straight year he had a game with 50 points and 10 assists at the Garden. And then a little bit later, February the 27th, 2013, Steph Curry scored a career-high 54 points, including 11 threes, the most ever in a game at Madison Square Garden. It was the first 50-point game of Curry's career. For more on what Harden could do tonight, back to Greeny in New York.
All right, Nicole, thank you. Jalen's here. So let me ask you this. I mean, here, Madison Square Garden, the Mecca, the world's most famous arena, but the Knicks have been so bad for so long. And this season, clearly, as you would say, they're not trying for Zion. Do players still get excited to come in here and play on the road?
I see how it just pains you to say that.
Yes, it does.
As somebody that lives so close to MSG, but yet so far away from watching a contending team play.
Correct.
So it's not necessarily about the Knicks. It's about the stage. And MSG presents that. New York City magnifies that for all of the players when they come here. The knowledge that the fans have, the history of that great team, of this great city. So it's better when they are good. Like, fortunately for me, when I was in the league, I got a chance to play against the Knicks when they were really good and had some of their best players in the franchise's history. So it does stink that they're not as good when the best players come to town to put on a show, but definitely players still want to put on the show when they come play here.
Yeah, next year when they have Zion and KD, everything will be much better. Quickly, James Harden putting up all these ridiculous numbers without CP3, without Capella, but is there a concern that he wears himself out over the course of a long season?
Not at all. You never get tired of playing offense. You never get tired of shooting the ball. Guess where he rests? On defense. He does not play it in any way, shape, or form. He uses all of his energy offensively.
We are just minutes away from getting started with Jalen and Maria and D. Wood and Dominique Foxworth, a whole lot more. Get up, top of the hour.